Alright, everybody, welcome back to Majr Gaming, and today we're going to be going over another Multiversus character concept that I've come up with for the Powerpuff Girls. I honestly think that they'd be a really cool character to have in this game, and I say character because usually when it comes to teams being separated, like the Aqua Teen Hunger Force or whatever, I'm not for or against it. I generally just want them in there one way or another. The Powerpuff Girls, I would be against having them all as one character, or having. I would be against them being separate characters each, mainly because they all do the same thing. They all three are literally the same power wise. Yes, they have different personalities and different looks, but they all do the same stuff. And if you actually watch the show, the original at least, they fight together a lot. Like, they finish each other's moves. Like, there's so many times in the original show where, like, Blossom will punch, and then Buttercup will punch, and then Bubbles will punch, and they all fight together a lot of the time. Or at least when they win, they are fighting together. So I think it'd be best to keep them as a 3-in-1 character. Now, with Multiversus' track record of really expanding unique characters in this game, like Iron Giant, LeBron, like characters that can do the weirdest stuff, Rick, Morty, these characters, like, I've played Smash. There are not a lot of Smash characters, if any at all, that match the weirdness of some of these characters in this game. And the uniqueness of these characters. Honestly, I think PlayStation All-Stars, I played that. They had some pretty unique characters in that game, but even then, they don't match this game. So, I think that with Multiverses, having the Powerpuff Girls be a 3-in-1 character is the best way to go. And I'm going to explain how it will work right now. So, essentially, we're going to start with the gameplay here. The Powerpuff Girls fight as a team with Blossom as their leader. They are classified as an assassin character. Buttercup and Bubbles will float around Blossom and assist with attacks, waiting for Blossom to send them off on their own to fight. So, you control Blossom as the character. You control Blossom. You move Blossom around. You fight with Blossom mainly. And then AI controls Bubbles and Buttercup. Now, this will be explained as I go through the moveset, but the AI will not fight on their own to begin with. When you load into the fight, you will be fighting as Blossom. What they will do is that Bubbles and Buttercup will assist in extending combos and stuff like that. So they will only attack if you are actively attacking an opponent. So say you hit someone, then one of them will go and hit that opponent too. Just like in the show. And the AI wouldn't have to do too much because it's not like the AI is making its own decisions. It's on a trajectory, like it's on a certain path that is indicated by what you do with Blossom. And while you're in this mode, Blossom or Buttercup and Bubbles can't be hit. They won't have hitboxes. They won't be able to get hit. They will just follow Blossom around. Now, I will explain more, but first we go over the Powerpuff Girls' passive ability. The Powerpuff Girls can fly upwards for a limited amount of time by holding the jump button. So, essentially like Iron Giant, they can fly a little bit. And, so this is like, you just hold the jump button and fly, and it'll have like a little timer thing for how long you can do it. And I assume that when they are actually fighting, they never touch the ground. Okay, they're not gonna walk; they just float above the ground. So they're always technically flying, and that's why Buttercup and Bubbles fly behind Blossom. But when they and then they can actually technically fly into the air. That's what I'm saying. So there's that. And now we go into their moveset. So Neutral Strike. Blossom does a 3-hit punch combo that knocks opponents back. After the combo, Buttercup and Bubbles will shoot laser blasts at the opponents. So essentially, Blossom does a 3-hit punch combo that knocks the opponent back. And then what Bubbles and Buttercup do, they're flying next to Blossom. They'll fly up, and in the show, they can use their hands to shoot like these electric beams. I don't have a picture of it, but they shoot like these electric energy beams. So they'll shoot that at the opponent in 2 beams of energy, and they'll be able to possibly make contact with the opponent. But they don't do that unless Blossom finishes the 3-hit punch combo on the opponent. So that is how the AI will work. After the hit, as long as it makes contact, then Bubbles and Buttercup will then react with the AI and do something. One or both. In air, Blossom does a forward punch. If it makes contact, Buttercup does a follow-up upward punch. So this is like the forward punch, and then imagine Buttercup doing something like this right here. So that would be, the air version of it. Now for forward strike, Blossom flies forward, grabs the opponent, and throws them behind her, similar to Black Adam's combo ender. If it makes contact, Bubbles will do a flurry of quick punches at the opponent, right here. So Blossom flies forward, grabs the opponent, throws him behind her, and then Bubbles will just come in on her own using the AI and punch the opponent a bunch of times. Now, the opponent will be able to break free of this if they time it correctly. It'll be quick. The AI will come in quickly, but not quick enough to where they can't escape it. They can dodge the AI if they time it right. But you have to be able to time it right. Assuming the AI works properly. In air, Blossom will do a flying super punch that can be charged for more knockback and damage. If it makes contact, Buttercup will do a downward flying kick at the opponents. So this is the flying punch that can be charged. She just flies forward with her energy beams behind her and then punches the opponent like what Buttercup's doing right here. And then if that makes contact, Buttercup will do a downward flying kick at the opponent as they're being knocked back. Similar to this, what Bubbles is doing right here, only it'll just be Buttercup doing it. Down strike. Blossom punches the ground and creates a shockwave in front of her. In the air, Blossom does a spin kick, and if it makes contact, Bubbles will do a dash at the opponent and grab them in a hug for a couple seconds. So this is the ground version. Blossom punches the ground and then creates a shockwave like this in front of her. That'll knock back opponents. The air version, Blossom will do a spin kick, and if it makes contact, Bubbles will do what I forgot his name, but the Rowdy Rough Boy. What he's doing, she'll fly forward and hug the opponent in a death hug, and they'll be kind of frozen there for a couple seconds, which will allow you to possibly do more combos. So that is the down strike. Up strike. Blossom grabs any opponent above her. After grabbing the opponent, Blossom will then slam the opponent on the ground on each side of her. So like right here, what Bubbles is doing, she grabbed this guy, and in the show, she slams him here and then slams him here. And then, so The second hit will then bounce the opponent. So say she slams them here, and then here, that will bounce the opponent into the air. In the air, Blossom does a rising kick, like this. If it makes contact, Buttercup does an upward flying punch into the opponent. So like here. So Blossom will kick him up, and then Buttercup will punch him up. You know, it's like a combo extender, sort of. Now, we get to the neutral special. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to save the neutral special for last, just to get through the other parts. That way it doesn't get too confusing. So we're going to move on to the forward special. Blossom shoots her laser beam eyes forward, and it can be charged for more power. So right here, they have laser beam eyes, so she just, shoots the laser beam forward and hits opponents. In the air, Blossom creates a wind tornado that moves forward while sucking up and throwing opponents. So similar to what Buttercup is doing right here, she'll just blow forward and it will create a tornado that travels forward in the air and sucks up any opponents, sort of like Taz's tornado, and just throws them. So that is the forward special. Down special. Blossom does an energy spin into a flying kick into the air. So right here you see the energy spin and then the flying kick. That is the ground version of that move. And then if that makes contact, Bubbles will do a downward flying kick that bounces the opponent. So similar to this, she'll just fly down and hit the opponent after Blossom hits them with this and then this. In air, all Powerpuff Girls do a sonic scream that stuns opponents around them, can be held for a couple seconds. So this is their sonic scream. And essentially, what happens is all three of the girls will look at the screen. Like, they'll look at you, and they'll just start screaming, and it'll create 3 circles around their heads of, sonic scream. And if any opponents are put into one of the circles around all 3 of them, they'll get knocked back. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully this is all making sense. Up special. Blossom will do a spin move in place that hits opponents and blocks projectiles. Bubbles and Buttercup will do the same at the same time. So essentially it's similar to the scream move. All 3 do it at the same time and they all spin like this. And they can knock back opponents and block projectiles using this move. In air, Blossom does a speed dash diagonally upwards, can be held to increase the dash distance. So essentially she just flies straight forward into the air. It's kind of like a save move. It doesn't actually do damage. So yes, that is the basics of their moveset. We hopefully understand the idea that Blossom is the character you control. You hit opponents with Blossom, and then Bubbles and Buttercup follow her around as AI, and they extend the combo based on the move that Blossom does. Some moves don't have extensions, some moves do. But Bubbles and Buttercup are following Blossom and reacting based on what Blossom does, and you control Blossom. Now, we're going to get into the neutral special, and this is what will make the Powerpuff Girls one of the most unique fighters in platform fighting. Neutral special. Blossom strikes a pose and tells Buttercup and Bubbles to fight the opponents. AI will then take over control of Buttercup and Bubbles. They will have the same moveset as Blossom, but their attacks will do 3% less damage, and they won't pick up items. They will attack opponents, doing damage and breaking their combos. This move can only be done once per life and is irreversible. So essentially you hit neutral special. Blossom strikes a pose similar to this, and she yells out, "Bubbles, Buttercup, I need your help," or something. And then what happens is the AI will take control of Bubbles and Buttercup, and they will no longer follow you around. They will be their own thing. They will be bots, essentially. And then, but now, as we will explain, Buttercup and Bubbles will stay like this until they are hit out of the map. It is irreversible. If you hit neutral special again, nothing will happen. It won't bring them back to you. You can only send them out once. And then at that point, after they are hit out, after they are sent out, they can be knocked out of the map and, killed, essentially. So, when you do it, you have to make sure that you're doing it at a good time. You know what I'm saying? Like, because if you use this move and at the beginning of the match and you try to use it, you lose your ability to extend your combos while you're fighting. So it's what do you want to do? Do you want to be able to fight and then have the AI extend your combos, or do you want do you want to have a 4v2, essentially, if you're doing duos? Do you want to have the AI there to support you on their own, but then they can be knocked out? If they are knocked out of the map, they do not come back until Blossom is knocked out. When Blossom is knocked out of the map, they respawn with her, and it resets. So you can only do it once per life. And that's to keep it balanced. If Blossom is knocked out, Buttercup and Bubbles will respawn with her even if they weren't knocked out. So say you unleash Bubbles and Buttercup onto the fight, okay? Say you're like, alright, let's have the AI take control, and they're gonna start fighting. What happens is, if Blossom, if the character you're controlling gets knocked out of the fight and the other two are still there, if they're still fighting, they will get knocked out too. They'll die, essentially, and then respawn with you, even if they weren't knocked out. Just to keep it consistent, because it's a once per life move. So if you die, they also die. But if they die before you, you don't die. So if they die before you, you're fighting on your own at that point. They don't count towards stocks, but if you die before them, then they die with you, essentially. Hopefully that all makes sense. So Blossom, if the other two are knocked out, then Blossom will fight on her own. She'll no longer have those combo extenders if the other two are knocked out. So then at that point, you just have a regular Blossom, no combo extenders, and no possibility of calling upon the AI sisters, essentially. Buttercup and Bubbles are not affected by buffs and debuffs, only Blossom is, and then it's the same in the air. So, the other two sisters are not affected by buffs and debuffs, only Blossom is. She's the only one that has, if she gets the big head thing, then we'd give the other two sisters big heads, but we wouldn't give them the buffs. I feel like that'd be funny. Just have them all walking around with big heads. But you get what I'm saying. They don't get the buffs and debuffs that Blossom gets. And that, again, is to keep it fair, because you're essentially, say it's a 1v1 situation, it's a 1v3 situation with the Powerpuff Girls, because it can be unleashed and then you have to knock out these other two sisters while also fighting against Blossom. So you got to make it easy to knock out the other two sisters, or at least not super hard. Sort of similar to Steven's Watermelon. They can be a little bit harder because they don't respawn, and then it's a once per life move. So it can be a little bit harder than the Watermelon Steven, but you don't want to make it too oppressive and too annoying, if you're fighting a 1v1 against the Powerpuff Girls. But yeah, so that is the idea behind their moveset. It's a lot of, up close and personal fighting, and that's why I consider them an assassin character, because they need to be light, they can't be too heavy, but they need to be fast and they need to do a lot of damage, but be light, similar to Harley. They might end up being the lightest characters in the game, honestly, but you get the idea, and that's why I call them an assassin. I was thinking maybe they could be a bruiser, but I decided assassin just because they need to be light. So now we're going to go over their perks real quick. Everything nice. Blossom's Tornado Breath is replaced with Ice Breath that freezes opponents over time. So the move that allows you to create a tornado is replaced with a move that shoots Ice Breath forward and freezes opponents. Pretty simple. Then the second perk is called Bubble Vicious. After using the neutral special attack, all of the Powerpuff Girls enter rage mode. So after activating the AI, after telling the AI to take over the other two sisters, all of them go into rage mode with this perk, and then they get that buff. So yeah, they do get that one buff, but they don't get, normal buffs. So yeah, that is my idea for the Powerpuff Girls. I noticed while rewatching the show to get ideas for their moveset, this show is dark. Like, it's dark and it's serious. I didn't realize that as a kid, but oh my god, this show can be dark. It's weird. But it's a really good show, and I think that it definitely deserves representation in this game. The only thing is, I don't believe that the best course of action is to have them as 3 separate characters. I just don't. They all fight very similarly. So, instead of making them 3 separate characters, you just make them 3-in-1 character with the ability to have the AI take over and pretty much turn it into a 4v2 or a 3v1, And that would be very unique, kind of like an Ice Climbers type of thing. But, yeah, so that is my idea for the Powerpuff Girls in Multiversus. I hope they do eventually get in regardless, but I really think they'd be best as one single character. If you guys have your own thoughts, let me know down in the comments below. If you have any questions on what I explained, hopefully I was clear enough to the point where you actually understand what I'm trying to get at with this, because I get it, it can be kind of a complicated thing to do, and I honestly have no idea if they'd even be capable of doing it. But my thought is, if they can create bots for this game, then they should be able to create this, because your supporting sisters would essentially just be bots. They'd be extra bot characters. So, that's my thought process on it. If you guys have your own thoughts, let me know down in the comments below. And everyone have a good day.